Have you ever truly paid attention to how certain individuals seem to possess an almost mystical, almost otherworldly ability to influence and transform the environment and atmosphere around them without even uttering a single word? They do not raise their voices, they do not plead or demand attention. Instead, they simply choose to withdraw, to become silent, and astonishingly, everything around them begins to shift. The energy in the room changes. People start feeling uneasy, questioning themselves, chasing after their approval, and desperately seeking their attention. Now, take a moment and imagine how different your life would be if you adopted this same strategy. Picture yourself refusing to react impulsively to every little thing that tries to trigger you. Imagine choosing silence over the knee-jerk response, choosing strategic withdrawal instead of dramatic confrontation. What, honestly, do you think would happen if you embrace this path? That question holds the key. When you decide to no longer be constantly emotionally available, no longer physically accessible, no longer psychologically predictable, you create a disruption in the system that people have built around you. The world around you, so accustomed to controlling your actions through your reactions, suddenly faces a crisis. Those who relied on your emotional predictability find themselves lost. They had manipulated your impulses, depending on your automatic behaviors to maintain their own sense of control. But the very moment you decide to withhold, to retreat, to stand firm in your silence, the entire game changes. Those who believed they knew you so well are suddenly confronted with the uncomfortable truth. They knew only the version of you they could control, not the true, untouchable you. Carl Jung once profoundly stated, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to a better understanding of ourselves." Reflect deeply on that for a second. When you become inaccessible, when you refuse to offer immediate emotional reactions, who around you gets truly desperate? Who becomes irritated? Who attempts to provoke you, to push your buttons, merely to extract some emotion from you? These behaviors reveal more about them, their fears, their insecurities, their need for control, than about you. And through this you begin to uncover how much of your life, of your energy, you have unknowingly allowed to be manipulated. You keep giving your time, your emotions, your energy, in the name of maintaining peace, of not losing people who, deep down, were never truly committed to you in the first place. With every forced yes, with every quick emotional reaction, with every moment you sacrifice your boundaries for someone else's comfort, you give away a fragment of your vital energy, and by the end of each exhausting day, what remains? A heavy, unshakable tiredness, an indescribable emptiness that gnaws at you from within. But let me tell you something you may not have realized. This persistent feeling stems from being excessively available to people who, frankly, do not even deserve a single second of your sacred silence. Understand, this is not about turning your back on humanity. It's not about becoming cold or cruel. It's about reclaiming your center, choosing yourself first. It's about embarking on what Carl Jung described as the journey of individuation, the profound psychological process of becoming whole, authentic, and truly yourself. And this journey begins precisely when you recognize the immense power that lies in choosing silence over argument, awareness over emotional reactivity, deliberate withdrawal over chaotic confrontation. So I ask you, directly, sincerely, how much longer will you allow yourself to be puppeteered by the emotions and manipulations of others? How many more times will you automatically react whenever someone pokes at your wounds, pulls your strings? Perhaps the time has come to break free, to cut those invisible strings once and for all, to become an enigma, a mystery even to those who thought they had you figured out. Because when you are no longer readily available, when you stop being the predictable source of emotional supply, everything around you inevitably transforms. From a young age, you have been taught that goodness equals availability. That being good means always being present, always responding quickly, always pleasing others, even at the cost of your own well-being. As a child, you were conditioned to believe that your worth was directly tied to your availability to meet others' needs. But let me reveal a truth to you, perhaps more clearly than anyone ever has. This excessive, compulsive availability is not a virtue. It is a cleverly disguised prison. As long as you continue believing that your value depends on being constantly accessible, emotionally, physically, mentally, you will remain vulnerable to being drained, manipulated, and discarded when you are no longer useful to others. Why? Because being constantly available makes you predictable, and anything that is predictable quickly loses its perceived value. It becomes a tool. People unconsciously start treating you like an emotional vending machine. They press your buttons for comfort, validation, distraction, attention, and then, without a second thought, place you back on the metaphorical shelf once they get what they need. The tragedy is that you remain blind to this dynamic because you cling to the desperate illusion that being there for everyone will make someone someday truly be there for you. But life doesn't work that way. Carl Jung spoke of the persona, the social mask we wear in order to be accepted, loved, recognized, and it is precisely this mask that traps you in the role of perpetual availability. You tell yourself, "It's okay," even as you suffocate. You answer every text immediately, even when you are mentally and emotionally drained. You explain yourself endlessly, justify your choices, defend your boundaries, as if you owe the world an explanation for simply existing. The painful truth is this: the more you center your life around meeting others' needs and expectations, the more you vanish from your own existence. Being perpetually available is a sophisticated form of self-abandonment. It is a hidden strategy for seeking approval, for avoiding rejection, for trying to manage how others perceive you. But this relentless effort comes at a devastating cost. The price you pay is your own inner peace. Your vital energy, far from being limitless, is finite, and you are scattering it recklessly as if it were inexhaustible. People who demand your constant availability are not truly interested in you. They crave what you provide: the validation, the company, the emotional comfort. But when you change, when you assert a boundary, when you refuse to dance to their tune, these same people will call you strange, selfish, distant. Not because you became someone else, but because you stopped functioning as their emotional lifeline. And here lies the cruel paradox. The more available you are, the less valuable you become in others' eyes. That which is too easy to access, too abundant, becomes emotionally worthless. Nobody truly cherishes what they don't have to work for. Nobody respects what is always conveniently within reach. Now, reflect honestly. Who in your life truly deserves your time, your energy, your attentive presence? Or even more important, who truly deserves your absence? Before you can answer that question with clarity, we need to delve deeper into one critical concept. Why do we react so much, so automatically? Why do we feel compelled to justify, to please, to explain ourselves over and over again? The answer lies in what Carl Jung called psychic energy, and that is the topic we will explore in the next part, because your energy is the most precious asset you possess. If you do not learn to protect it, someone else will continue to exploit it for their own benefit. If you want to go even deeper and learn how to protect your energy, read people's true intentions, master your emotional intelligence, and understand the hidden mechanisms of manipulation. I highly recommend you check out the book Manipulation Secrets, 4 books in one. It brings together practical techniques on body language, NLP, dark psychology, and emotional intelligence, so you can stop being manipulated and start taking full control of your life. The link is in the description. Take a look, because this knowledge can truly transform the way you protect yourself and position yourself in the world. Every single thought you entertain, every emotion you experience, and every action you choose to take consumes a certain amount of your inner psychic energy. Now, the real question you need to ask yourself is this: are you consciously deciding where your precious energy is going, or are you unconsciously allowing the external world, people, situations, circumstances, to dictate and control the flow of your energy for you? Each and every time you respond impulsively, without reflection, without intentionality, you are leaking, wasting, squandering that psychic energy. Think about the moments when you feel the need to defend yourself against an unfounded criticism, something that didn't even warrant your time or acknowledgement. Think about when you react to a meaningless provocation just for the sake of proving you are right. Every pointless argument, every attempt to earn the approval of someone who clearly does not value you, it all represents a colossal expenditure of your inner strength on things that offer you no nourishment, no growth, no return whatsoever. Carl Jung made it clear with his powerful insight: that which you resist persists. The more you fight against external attacks, provocations, and situations, the tighter you bind yourself to them. You become entangled in the very dynamics you wish to escape. Those who live their lives feeling emotionally exhausted are not necessarily weak individuals. They are often just individuals who have allowed their energy to be misdirected, scattered across battles that were never worth fighting. And here's what happens when a person is constantly operating on an empty tank of energy. They become highly vulnerable. Vulnerability, when it stems from exhaustion and not from conscious openness, turns you into easy prey. People with manipulative tendencies, opportunistic motives, and emotional dependency can smell this vulnerability from miles away. They detect when someone does not know how to guard their own energy, when someone is quick to react to every stimulus, and when someone is obsessed with solving everyone's problems as if it were their own duty, and they exploit it mercilessly. Jung emphasized that a truly healthy psyche is not one that fights every battle. It is one that knows how to preserve its energy within itself, maintaining its power, its presence, its integrity. This means developing the priceless ability to say no without guilt eating you alive. It means remaining silent when necessary without interpreting it as cowardice. It means cultivating the patience and clarity to observe a situation before rushing into action. Because true strength, real influence, does not lie in reacting. It lies in choosing when to act, how to act, and sometimes when not to act at all. This ability is only possible when you have embarked on the journey of profound self-knowledge, when you recognize and master your own impulses rather than being mastered by them. How many sleepless nights have you endured, agonizing over unresolved conversations that kept playing over and over in your mind? How many countless hours have you wasted ruminating on the perfect thing you should have said, on why someone treated you so poorly, seeking explanations that never come? Every one of these moments is psychic energy being drained into a black, whole energy that will never return to you. You are essentially keeping alive the ghosts of conflicts and hurts that should have been laid to rest long ago. You are feeding toxic emotional dynamics that only continue to exist because you keep breathing life into them with your reactions. Think of psychic energy as a powerful force field surrounding you. When you learn to guard it properly, it becomes like an aura of authority. You enter a room, and without saying a single word, you command respect. People feel your presence. They recognize your self-possession. But when your energy is poorly managed, scattered, unprotected, you become nearly invisible. You become hyper-reactive, fragile, and easily broken. And the brutal reality is this: the world has no mercy for those who offer themselves up too easily. That's why you must begin a journey of rigorous self-observation. Start by noticing what triggers you into automatic reactions. What situations, what words, what looks, what circumstances cause you to lose your center? Those precise points are where your energy leaks away uncontrollably. And it is exactly there that your real work must begin. The goal here is not to transform yourself into a cold, emotionless machine. It's not about shutting down your heart. It's about becoming selective. It's about regaining your sovereignty over yourself, your choices, and your emotional investments. And here we come across one of Carl Jung's most profound revelations. When you master the art of conserving your psychic energy, you shatter the projections that others place upon you. You break free from the chains of the roles others have assigned you without your consent. And make no mistake, this change disturbs many people. It bothers them deeply. Because now we are stepping into a very dark and rarely acknowledged territory. The silent manipulation that has operated invisibly around you for so long. In the next phase, we will explore this unsettling truth. How opportunistic individuals, consciously or unconsciously, feed off your energy like parasites, and why your newfound unavailability completely disarms and dismantles their games. You will be invited to open your eyes and look directly into the faces of those who have been draining you for years. Without your awareness or consent, you may think you are in control right now. You may believe that your reactions are conscious, deliberate choices. But the truth, the deeper truth, is much darker and much more uncomfortable. The vast majority of your emotional responses have been programmed. And those who understand this, those who are emotionally perceptive enough, manipulate you with shocking ease. Opportunistic people don't need to yell at you. They don't need to use threats or resort to obvious coercion. They simply press the buttons you have left exposed, your insecurities, your need for approval, your fear of rejection, and you react predictably, again and again. Carl Jung referred to this phenomenon as projection, the psychological mechanism through which individuals unconsciously project onto others the aspects of themselves they cannot or will not acknowledge. But here's a dimension that few people realize. While others are projecting onto you, you simultaneously become the perfect screen, the blank canvas for all these projections. The more emotionally available you are, the more you willingly offer yourself as that canvas. You know that friend who only calls you when their life is falling apart? That romantic partner who only seems to love you when they need you to solve their problems? That colleague who praises you as long as you are convenient for them, but disappears when you set a limit. None of this is random. None of this is genuine relationship. They are not relating to you. They are interacting with the idea of you, with the role you have unconsciously agreed to play. And why do you agree? Because you are terrified of disappointing people, terrified of not being loved, terrified of abandonment, terrified of being deemed useless. Understand this. The most effective and insidious manipulation does not happen through loud arguments or direct orders. It occurs silently, insidiously, through the guilt you carry. It happens when you feel that you owe something to others, your time, your energy, your presence, even when it is destroying you from within. And here lies the critical point. The manipulator does not need to dominate you directly. They merely need you to keep reacting in the same predictable ways you always have. However, the moment you refuse to react, the entire game collapses. When you begin to say no calmly, when you respond with silence instead of endless explanations, when you withdraw instead of justifying yourself, you trigger a profound disturbance. The projections others have placed upon you begin to disintegrate. The mask they forced onto you begins to fall. This is terrifying for them, because now they are no longer interacting with a predictable, compliant version of you. They are confronted with a mystery, a sovereign being they cannot control, and even worse, now they are forced to face themselves, to confront their own fears, their own deficiencies, their own emptiness, And many people are utterly unprepared for that confrontation. Your unavailability, your silence, your refusal to be a predictable mirror becomes a threat. It shines a painful spotlight on the internal chaos they have been trying to avoid at all costs. At this point, expect attacks, expect criticism, expect emotional drama. Not because you have done anything wrong, but because you have broken a silent contract you never consciously agreed to. You stopped being convenient. Carl Jung once profoundly remarked, "We do not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." This statement holds within it a transformative truth. When you choose to withdraw your energy, when you deliberately stop feeding into the endless cycles of emotional reaction, you bring forth the shadows of others. Their hidden parts, their suppressed fears, their unresolved emotions begin to surface, and this exposure becomes unbearable for those who had long relied on you as a convenient escape route from their own pain. But now, let's turn the focus inward. What about you? Are you genuinely prepared to face the discomfort that inevitably follows when you prioritize protecting your energy? Are you ready to confront being misunderstood, misjudged, rejected, or even attacked simply because you chose to honor yourself over the needs and projections of others? Are you willing to withstand the vast, sometimes deafening silence that follows after you break the unhealthy emotional ties? Because it is exactly within that silence that a new, previously unimaginable form of personal power begins to take root. And this is precisely what we must now explore. In the next unfolding layers, you will come to understand why silence, true, strategic, conscious silence, is perhaps the most devastatingly powerful weapon that the human psyche can wield. It completely dismantles the dynamics that others attempt to impose on you, and it fundamentally reshapes the relationship between you and the external world. We live in an era of overwhelming noise. Everywhere you turn, there is a rush to be heard, a desperation to respond faster, a compulsion to win meaningless arguments, a need to prove one's point, even when the cost is one's own inner peace. People are addicted to the sound of their own voices and to the validation that instant reactions bring. Yet there exists a power, a silent, subtle, yet monumental power that very few ever discover and even fewer truly master: the power of silence. Not the silence that stems from passivity, fear, or avoidance. No, we are talking about conscious silence, strategic silence, the kind of silence born out of brutal self-awareness and clarity. It is a silence that is not an absence, but an intensified presence. Carl Jung viewed silence not as a void or emptiness, but rather as an incredibly fertile ground, a sacred space where inner transformation can occur. When you cease reacting impulsively, you gift yourself the opportunity to truly observe, and through observation, you begin to notice patterns, emotional traps, manipulative cycles, and self-sabotaging behaviors that previously remained invisible. In the chaos of constant reaction, silence sharpens your perception. It grants you lucidity, and lucidity is dangerous for those who have built their power over you through your lack of awareness. Have you ever noticed how certain individuals become visibly anxious, restless, even panicked when you refuse to respond? When you do not offer explanations, when you simply disappear without justification? It's not because they truly miss your presence, it's because your silence strips away their ability to control the narrative. As long as you are speaking, explaining, defending, you are playing within their game, operating by their rules. But when you fall silent, when you withdraw your energy, you change the very nature of the game, and it throws them off balance. True silence is not an absence of voice. It is the highest form of energetic mastery. It is the conscious refusal to be dragged into emotional turmoil that does not belong to you. It is the wise decision not to engage in battles that are not worthy of your energy, your dignity, or your peace. Jung emphasized that the process of individuation, the journey of becoming your most authentic self, requires this critical distancing. Only in silence can you finally hear your own voice, free from the incessant noise and demands of the external world. But let's be clear, silence comes with a cost. When you choose silence as your weapon of self-preservation and transformation, you inevitably distance yourself from people who only valued you for the role you played in their lives. Your absence, your mystery, your refusal to be predictable will make you incomprehensible to those who only ever related to their projections of you, not to your true self. You will be called cold. You will be labeled distant, arrogant, selfish. But remember, these accusations are not reflections of your reality. They are the emotional reactions of those who never wanted to encounter the depths of your true being. They only wanted your functionality. Here lies a difficult but liberating truth. The more you grow, the more you mature internally, the more selective you become with your words. Because you come to understand deeply that every sentence, every explanation, every disclosure is an investment of energy. And not everyone, not every situation deserves access to your innermost truth. Sometimes silence is not a withdrawal. It is not defeat. It is not weakness. Silence is sovereignty. It is the language of those who no longer feel the desperate need to prove anything to anyone. Silence is profoundly uncomfortable for others because it forces them to sit with themselves. It forces them to confront their own unresolved thoughts, their own internal noise, without the convenient distraction of your reactions. And that internal confrontation reveals far more about them, their wounds, their manipulations, their fears, than any argument, justification, or explanation you could ever offer. Understand, you do not need to explain your absence. Your absence explains itself, and those who are most disturbed by it reveal, through their discomfort, just how much they depended on your emotional instability to maintain their own fragile sense of control. However, recognize this as well. The most transformative silence is not the one that destabilizes others. It is the silence that rebuilds you from the inside out. It is the sacred silence that reconnects you with a part of yourself that is untouched by external opinions, demands, and judgments. Within this internal space, free from the demands and expectations of others, you begin to reclaim your vital energy. You start to reconnect with your authentic essence, the self you were always meant to be, the self that needs no external validation. And this is the next step we must explore. Because it is not enough to simply eliminate external noise. True transformation requires learning how to manage and direct your psychic energy consciously, choosing intentionally where it flows, where it anchors, and perhaps most importantly, where it should never again be wasted. It is time to become fiercely selective with your soul, with your energy, with your time, with your emotional investments. If you are currently walking the path of reclaiming your personal energy, if you are in the sacred process of setting and enforcing new boundaries in your life, then you may find deep, practical value in my book, Beyond the Shadow. In this book, I break down Carl Jung's most vital psychological concepts and provide clear, actionable tools to help you protect your energy, assert your boundaries, and reconnect with your truest self. If that resonates with you, you will find the link in the pinned comment. But I must tell you something important. It is useless to intellectually understand all of these ideas if, in practice, you continue betraying yourself. If you keep saying yes when every fiber of your being wants to say no, if you continue answering messages that drain you, if you keep participating in conversations that leave you empty, if you maintain relationships that survive only out of habit, out of inertia, out of fear, awareness without action is nothing more than another sophisticated form of self-deception. Another beautiful lie you tell yourself. Real, lasting transformation begins when you make the unwavering decision to become rigorously selective, to protect your soul as fiercely as you protect your most precious treasures, and this requires emotional discipline. Conscious unavailability is not about becoming cold, arrogant, or indifferent. It is about no longer being accessible to anyone, at any time, for any reason, without discernment. It is about reclaiming dominion over your own energy, your time, and most importantly, your peace. And this starts with small, deliberate actions, pausing before reacting, breathing deeply instead of lashing out, allowing silence to prevail where once you would have rushed to fill the space with explanations or justifications, leaving conversations that serve no purpose but to drain you, saying less, listening more, withdrawing your energy from battles that are not yours to fight. Choosing not to be dragged into unnecessary chaos is an act of tremendous self-respect. Imagine, without guilt, turning off your phone, disconnecting from the noise, and reclaiming your peace. Picture yourself saying calmly and firmly, "Not today," or "I'm not interested," or even, "I refuse to get involved in something that does not serve my well-being." These simple, assertive choices are small revolutions in a world that demands your constant availability. But here is one of the most crucial truths you must grasp deeply. You owe no one any explanation for your absence. You owe no one any justification for your silence. You owe nothing to anyone but yourself. And for many people, this is utterly unforgivable, because when you refuse to justify your withdrawal, when you deny them the narrative where you are always the accommodating, understanding, self-sacrificing one, you strip away their ability to manipulate your presence through guilt. Carl Jung understood profoundly that every genuine process of individuation, this journey toward becoming your true, integrated self, inevitably passes through phases of isolation, but not a despairing or depressive isolation. No, a sacred, necessary isolation, a retreat into yourself, a period when you relearn how to hear your own authentic voice without the distortions and demands of the outside world. During this time of inner sanctuary, you begin rebuilding your identity, no longer based on the fragmented reflections others have projected onto you, but grounded deeply in your own true center. Want to know a powerful measure of your personal evolution? Pay attention to who starts to drift away from you as you become more reserved, more selective. Observe carefully who attempts to provoke you once they realize you have stopped reacting automatically. Notice who accuses you of having changed the moment you start setting firm boundaries to protect yourself. These reactions are not signs that you are doing something wrong. Quite the contrary, they are concrete evidence that you are finally breaking free from the emotional contracts that kept you trapped in dynamics that were never healthy for your soul. At first, being emotionally unavailable feels deeply uncomfortable. You will wrestle with guilt. You will second-guess yourself, wondering if you are being selfish, cruel, too harsh. You will hear others accusing you of being heartless. But all of this discomfort is part of the essential deconstruction process. You have spent most of your life being conditioned to put yourself second, to prioritize the feelings and needs of others above your own. It is only natural that reclaiming your own space, your own voice, will initially feel foreign, even painful, not only for you, but for everyone who benefited from your old, compliant self. Conscious unavailability is not selfishness. It is the foundation of self-determination. Every time you say no to the world, you are saying a resounding yes to yourself. Every time you withdraw from toxic environments, you're declaring that your inner peace is more valuable than any counterfeit connection. And when you stop explaining yourself, when you no longer offer justifications for your boundaries, you begin to be respected. maybe not by many, maybe not immediately, but by those who matter, the few who can see and honor your true value. However, not everyone will be ready or willing to accept this version of you. Your emotional withdrawal will trigger deep wounds in others, wounds they have been avoiding for years. Your refusal to be their emotional crutch will expose the uncomfortable truth that they depended on your chaos to sustain their own illusion of control. And when this happens, the rupture comes. With the rupture comes a wave of pain, loneliness, and emotional estrangement. You may feel at times that you are losing something essential, but in truth, you are not losing. You are freeing yourself. You are shedding the layers of obligation and illusion that kept you chained. But what lies beyond this rupture? What comes after the distancing? What is born from the fertile soil of your newfound silence? In the next part, we will dive into this rebirth, the powerful, radiant transformation that only unfolds when you have the audacity to be misunderstood, the courage to walk alone, and the strength to become whole by yourself. Now let us explore why the loneliness of the strong is not a curse, but rather the most sacred path to true freedom. When you stop offering yourself indiscriminately to everyone, something profound and deeply transformative begins to happen inside you. First, there is silence. A thick, heavy silence that at first feels almost unbearable. It screams inside your mind, filling you with doubts. You begin to wonder, did I make the right decision? Am I being too harsh? Am I pushing away people who genuinely cared about me? But over time, this silence transforms. It purifies. It begins to cleanse the noise and debris accumulated within you. It soothes the constant anxiety. It begins to heal old wounds. And then, slowly but surely, what enters is not isolation, but solitude. And there is a monumental difference between isolation and solitude. This is not the solitude of emptiness or absence. It is the solitude of profound presence. It is the solitude of someone who has finally decided to stand fully within themselves. It is the solitude of the strong, the solitude of one who refuses to betray their soul simply to maintain proximity to others. Within this sacred inner space, where confusion once reigned, clarity begins to arise. Where anxiety once lived, a deep peace starts to settle. Where neediness once gnawed at your heart, an unshakable strength takes root. Carl Jung taught that the process of individuation demands that we distance ourselves from the collective noise, that we disidentify from the personas and masks we have, worn to please others, that we walk alone, even if only for a time, to find our true center. And that is precisely what you are doing when you choose to become consciously unavailable. You are not fleeing from the world. You are returning home to yourself. At this point, something miraculous happens. You cease to be a passive reactor to external circumstances. You become an active creator of your reality. You stop being shaped by the chaos around you and instead begin to shape your life from within your own sacred center. And the people who feel uncomfortable with your absence, they reveal that they never truly loved you. They loved the role you played for their benefit. Now that you no longer fit their expectations, they no longer know how to relate to you, and that is an incredible liberation. Yes, you will lose people, but you will find yourself, yes, you will distance yourself from certain environments, but you will reconnect with your own soul. Yes, you will be misunderstood, but for the first time, you will begin to be truly respected. Because when you are no longer available for anything and everything, when your energy becomes a rare, precious gift, you become valuable, rare, unforgettable. And make no mistake, this is nothing less than a rebirth. It is the beginning of a new existence, one where you are no longer available for emotional crumbs, no longer playing along with manipulative games, no longer falling for voids disguised as affection. Now, you only open your heart, your time, and your energy to what truly resonates with your inner peace, your authenticity, and your completeness. And if you have followed this message to this point, it is because a part of you, perhaps the deepest part, already knows you are ready. A part of you already recognizes that being loved at the cost of abandoning yourself is no love at all. True self-love, true freedom, true transformation begins the moment you choose yourself, even if that choice means walking alone for a time. Now, I want to hear from you. Tell me honestly down in the comments, are you ready to be misunderstood, rejected, even hated, if that is the price you must pay to protect your sacred inner freedom? Are you prepared to embrace the solitude of the strong? If this message has resonated with you, if it stirred something inside you, then affirm it boldly by writing in the comments, "I choose my peace." Let us see how many souls here are ready to step into their true, unshakable freedom. Embracing. This transition, the profound shift from availability to sovereignty, is not something that happens overnight. It demands emotional courage, unwavering self-honesty, and a steadfast commitment to honoring your own growth above the comfort of familiarity. It requires you to be patient with yourself, to trust the invisible process unfolding within you, even when the external world offers no immediate validation. Understand this: the journey you have embarked upon is not easy, but it is sacred. And every step you take away from the noise, from the chaos, from the endless cycles of reaction, brings you closer to a life of true inner peace and authentic power. But do not stop here. Your transformation is only just beginning. It is absolutely crucial that you continue moving forward, deepening this understanding, strengthening this new foundation you are building. There is more you need to see, more you need to internalize, more you need to awaken within yourself. That's why I I urge you to continue watching the next video. It's not just another step, it's an essential continuation of everything you have begun to realize today. The next insights waiting for you are not only important, they are vital. They will expand your vision and arm you with even greater tools to protect your peace, to preserve your vital energy, and to live from your truest center. You may think it's a small thing, you may be tempted to postpone it, but trust me, it matters much more than you can currently imagine. Stay with me. Move forward on this path of becoming. I'll meet you there.